Hello, my friends, and welcome back to Learning Torah Lishma. I want to talk about a bit how about the fact that kids want to respect their parents, they want to look up to them, but as they get older, especially divorced parents, the kids lose respect for them. There's a difference between a child becoming self-sufficient, that they are supposed to do, but losing respect for you, that that doesn't have to happen, and it's happening a lot today. They see how weak you are, how you do not have great responsibility in your life, and how you cower to other people. And let me explain. A parent has to know that if you can't bring a girl for your boy, or a boy for your girl, they lose they they lose a lot of respect towards you. It's not that they won't talk to you anymore. You understand? It's just, you feel it. The parents feel it. The kids don't respect them, and they want the kids to respect them, and the kids want to respect them, but what are they supposed to do? Lie to themselves? How could they respect you? You understand? You're a puppet. You do whatever you're told. You're afraid. You argue with simple things that they say. They say, I think resume's better, and you just argue with them. No. Instead of agreeing with them. And they're correct. You understand? You just kiss up to the system. We're not talking about laws, minhagim mentioned in the Shulchan Aruch, real minhagim. We're not talking about that. I'm not talking about deraisas, derabanan, strong ancient minhagim. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about resume. Talking about kollel. Talking about working. Talking about teaching them a trade. If you have a trade, why didn't you teach it to them? You understand? If they don't like what you're doing and they like a different area, so teach them a trade. Get someone to teach them a trade in that area if you can't. You understand? This is called being parents. Today, all this is attacked. The kollel idea and the resume idea basically turns parents into nobodies. Because when it comes to crucial aspects of life, you can't do much. I was talking to someone, a very special person. I'm not going to say his name, out of respect, but this person he's big. You understand? Big stuff. And I spoke with him, and he told me, yeah. So he has a son that I know as well. That son. So he tells me, I was speaking to him. This is going back a few years. I'm speaking with him. I speak with people. If they if they want to speak. If I don't try to push people. So I was speaking with him. He's a pretty talkative guy. Person, and he was telling me, my someone suggested this girl. I saw she was fat, and I said, I don't know if my son is is going to like that, but they could go out and, you'll see. They went out, and his son didn't mind the fact that she was fat. They got married, and then they got divorced. And I know the son. He's not a bad person. You understand? And 80% of divorces are made by women. So there's literally a chazaka. You could assume that the woman caused the divorce. You understand? Men are willing to much more to deal with your nonsense. Women very quickly will just get a divorce, especially in the beginning of marriage. So he got divorced. She didn't appreciate the fact that he thought she was beautiful even though she was fat. You understand? So you have to understand, people think, I'll just go for the fat one, the one that doesn't look so good. You have to understand they're all the same. The fattest girl has so much arrogance, sometimes even more. A lot of times, because the fat girl isn't facing reality. What happens is she goes extreme, and in general, girls today they're a piece of work. You understand? But the fat girls are even worse in general, because that's how they're coping with their fatness. You understand? So my friend, this big person's son, he got married again, and Baruch Hashem, he stayed married, to his second wife. So people just say, okay, let's just get them married. The fat ones are easier. You understand? It doesn't work that way. You cannot think of things in a superficial way. You have to think in depth, and things have to click. And I know this boy, it's not that he wouldn't appreciate a skinny girl. He would. It's just that he also, to a certain extent, appreciates a girl that's fat as well. Now, Now, there are certain people that actually they want someone fat. That's attractive to them. Skinny isn't. But if both are attractive to your son, then you as a father have a responsibility. As a mother, you have a responsibility to want the best for your child, not to put someone else's child before your child. And even if you yourself are fat, you should tell your child the truth, that it's better to marry. You should try to see if you could get him to understand why marrying a skinny girl is better. That's what beauty is, you understand? It's when the features are able to come out of the body, not that everything's a blob. Try to explain it. And most boys, you could get them to understand things in the correct way. That's part of chinuch. That's part of teaching your child. Hoping that your child would be okay with a fat girl so that he'll marry anybody, that's the way a commoner thinks. The fact that she's a girl is enough. That's the way stupid people think. You want to be high class? You want to live high class? You want to think high class? you got to teach high class. You have to be against low class. That means even if your son really only he didn't even like skinny women, he only liked fat women, you would still talk to him and see if you could change his mind. Not force him to marry someone skinny even though he likes someone fat. No, try to get him to like skinny girls and then marry him to one of them. There are many ways to show why skinny is better. Beauty-wise, how the features come out and it's not a blob. Health-wise, character-wise, usually the skinny girls are better. I mean, it could be there was once a time that a fat girl had better midas, better character trait, but today it's the opposite. The fatness causes her to be worse. You have to explain to him on many levels. Now, this is a responsibility if you want to be a good parent. And when you talk like this, you start to become a real person. The child starts to see that you're not stupid, that you actually care about them. And when someone tries to force your son or your daughter to give a resume, otherwise the shot's going to say, I won't help them, the parents just stick up for their son and daughter and say, no, coffee dating, they should stick up for it. And you understand? Not that the parents don't say anything or agree with resume, and the only one that's disagreeing is the young child, and no one cares what they think. I mean, that's the way they look at them, a young child, a young adult. They look at them as children. They don't respect them. The only way to get respect by 99% of people is having a spouse, for a man in this case, a woman, and kids, and secondly, having money, having a lot of extra money, being rich. So when someone is young, they don't have money and they're trying to get a spouse. You understand? So they're pretty. You have to know, getting money and getting married. It's in life. Most of the time, you can't just focus on one thing. You have to focus on at least two things. In this case, a wife and money. In this realm of respect, of people treating you with respect and like a human being, this is what you need to do. It's sad that this is what you have to do. It's sad that they don't want the best for you, but that's the reality, and therefore you need to face the reality, and the only way to fight against it in this case, because you're trying to get married, you understand, is to go to work and have a lot of extra money. Be rich. You understand? So this is extremely important. Now, when a parent, when their son or daughter is saying something tachlis, they're saying something substance, and you disagree, and you, because the system tells you to think otherwise or to say otherwise, you say the opposite of logic, that causes the child to lose deep respect for you, shallow respect, They're my parents after all, so you treat them with respect. But there's people that you really respect. There's people that even if you weren't obligated to respect them, you would respect them because you really respect them. You understand? So they're only treating you with what they, and very basically, very basic, because sometimes they could be giving you, a lot of respect, but it's not because they really respect you. It's because that's what Hashem wants from them. But they actually don't respect you as a parent. They don't respect their parents because you're losers. You're so easily brainwashed. You so easily turn on your own blood. How can someone respect you? So the parents will daven for stupid kids that are on the spectrum, that aren't too smart, and they won't realize. I mean, you're a traitor to your own blood. You should want the most brilliant children ever. You should want to be in first class, not a commoner. You want to be in the aristocracy. But to do that, you need to change. You need to disagree with a rabbi, even though he has a whole bunch of his friends agreeing with him, because he's wrong. We're not talking about a deraisa, derabanan. We're not talking about that. We're talking about all this added junk that has nothing to do with the Torah, and people are pushing their own ideas onto the Hamoinam, onto the general populace. There's a scary truth when I look at the world, and that is people are, the reality is that people end up being in the place where they really belong. And you understand? You end up in the bad predicament. You end up with your kids not respecting you. You end up with debt and with your life not going properly. You end up there because that's really who you are. People are imagining, no, it's hard times, this, that. No. You're there because that's really who you are. For instance, someone starts taking cocaine. Cocaine, it's one time you take it, and that's it. A person's addicted, and a person could die from withdrawals when they're trying to get out of it. You understand? So someone took it. You're a homeless person now because now you're addicted to cocaine, and eventually you'll end up on the street. Just because you're not there now doesn't. That is the actions of a homeless person to take cocaine. A aristocrat doesn't take cocaine. A regular class person doesn't take cocaine. A severe loser takes cocaine. So if you took it, and as a Jew, any types of these drugs, even if they permit it, like weed or things like that, a Jew's not allowed to take these mind-altering and drugs because they ruin their brain, and a Jew is not allowed to ruin their brain. I see these kids that they end up looking like monkeys, and their brain they ruin their brain cells, and they function on a very low level. Many die from overdoses. A person ends up where a person at the end of the day, when a person's very young, they could fake being aristocrat. But as life goes on, a person ends up where they really are. And you understand? And therefore it's crucial for a person to realize this and strive to grow and to become part of the aristocrat and go higher and higher, and not to be stupid fools like most people are, not to be a commoner. You know, today you have rich people, but they're really stupid people. They're really commoners. And then they end up going on drugs because they got the money. Today, people could, strike it rich, but they end up in the garbage. A person, they could be aristocrat, but they didn't teach their children properly, and they didn't pass on that aristocracy to their children, and their children are simpletons and easily fooled and become stupid, and they take the free cocaine, and now the mob has a customer forever. This is what happens. They give it out for free a little bit, and then the person becomes addicted. Many of these drugs right away, some of them after a few times, and that's it. Now the mob has a customer for life. Many of these drugs, a person could die trying to get off of them. It's not as simple as people think. You understand? It's dangerous. It's really dangerous. That's why we find a lot of overdoses. First of all, because they don't know how to make the proper dose, and second of all, because the withdrawal is so strong that they're not able to think properly, and they take too much, and then they just die. Now, even if you took the right amount every single time, if a person doesn't die, then they turn into a monkey. Very low function. So sad. And I've seen it. And I've also seen with my own eyes a person overdose and almost died. How the body shakes. Very scary. And there's really nothing you could do. It's very sad. A person ends up, a person at the end of the day will end up where their level is truly. But when a person's young, especially at any age, but especially when a person's young, it's easy to change. There's a lot of potential there. And they could teach themselves how to think like aristocrats, how to act like aristocrats, and they could become aristocrats. Just like we have aristocrats and their kids become regular normal people, and then they go to becoming stupid and they start taking things. The same thing is an average person could turn himself into an aristocrat. And this is what a person needs to know for themselves. Now, for the parents, a parent should be teaching their children this. Teaching them, listen, sales is great, but don't do sales when you only make pennies. Do sales on big things that the commission's big. Think like an aristocrat. You understand? Aristocrat tries to maximize his time, maximize the profit. An aristocrat doesn't marry a whore. An aristocrat doesn't marry the town's whore. I've seen really rich people that do this. You just don't do that. Well, she's beautiful. You just don't do that. There's plenty of beautiful girls. There's no need to marry this whore. But it's so easy. I know her, you know, God forbid, you know, in the Goyish world, they've been with her, whatever. It's the town's whore. I don't be with her. I don't want to have anything to do with her. Being around her turns you into a simpleton, which is on the borderline of becoming stupid. And we know what happens after that. An aristocrat has a great balance in life. And that's what you should be teaching your children, and doing things at a high scale, at an advanced level. There's no reason to waste your time on doing the same thing on low levels if you could do it on high levels. Shoot to the sky. I know a lot of people that have changed their mind from thinking like a commoner into thinking like an aristocrat, and they were very overweight, men and women, and they lost the weight and they kept it off. Why? They're a different human being. They respect themselves and they respect others. It doesn't mean you respect a gangster. We're not talking about that. I'm talking about respecting good people and people that have good wisdom. And there's all different types of wisdom. You know, there's all different types of work wisdom and wisdom of life. And people can have good wisdom in this area, and others can have in that area. It's many aspects. So what parents could do to gain their children's respect is bring them up to be aristocrats. Bring your level up. Don't allow stupidness to reign and control. This is a folly. This is not good for your relationship. You should be striving to grow. Not striving to marry the rich man, to marry the rich girl. No. That you should be able to make the money, whether you're a man or you're a woman. That you're not a loser. And that stupid ideas, you just don't allow them to brainwash you. And it's clear, and you tell your kids and your wife and your family or your husband that this is false. You know, there's a wife, you know, there's a couple, they discuss it with each other and they figure out the truth and admit to the truth, even if it's difficult. People have a hard time. They're so brainwashed from a young age. Kaila, learning full time, no resume, no working, all this nonsense. Money will fall from heaven. Money will just come. All this nonsense. God helps those that help themselves. Hashem helps those that help themselves. One needs to remember this. One needs to engrave this on their mind. And one needs to be a pious, holy, successful person. I love you, and Hashem loves you more. And we want to wish you all an amazing Shabbos, as it's, you know, Malay Shabbat to Erev Shabbos is already beginning, and the Kedusha begins to come, and it's big stuff. It's big stuff. I love you, and Hashem loves you more.